Andrea Kartika, Reiki healing facilitator. I'm so glad to have you here. For people who don't know what Reiki is, who hasn't heard of Reiki, which would be amazing, but could you describe Reiki and what kind of healing is involved with Reiki?
Yes, thank you, Ed. It's good to be here. And Reiki, there are several ways you can look at Reiki. So I will start at what does the word Reiki even mean? It's a Japanese word, and it means universal life force energy. So it's the energy of everything that the Japanese believe, is holding the world in place and order. There's a natural order to things, and that Reiki is this universal life force, this unseen, invisible force or power that sustains us. And at the same time, it's also a system of natural healing, and people refer to it also as Reiki practice. And what this practice and healing modality involves is hands-on healing, meditation and mindfulness.
Okay.
To really help restore balance and to help people to become present and to connect with themselves and each other in a more holistic, and grounded way.
So when you say healing, would that encompass physical healing, emotional healing, even spiritual healing? Is this for people who are unwell, or is it for anyone who wants to get more into balance in their lives?
It's all of it that you said. When you think of the word to heal, the origin of it means to make whole. So we are not just a physical form, we have also emotions, and we have our spiritual self. So in order to heal or to be well or to be in balance, all three components, all three parts of our system, what I call our system, the emotions, the physical and the spiritual parts of us, it needs to be in balance in order to be whole. And to heal, what do we need to heal from is the question. People turn to Reiki because they have issues, physical issues, emotional issues. They're dealing with diseases, they're dealing with anxiety, they're dealing with depression, stress, cancer, all different kinds of things. But then there are also people who are seekers and who are curious and who use Reiki for their personal development, and because they want to be more present and they want to be more of who they are.
The founder of Reiki, Mikao Usui, he was a seeker. I did my homework. He was a seeker, and he was in a Buddhist monastery, or he studied Buddhism, and somehow he didn't get to the point of achieving what he wanted. And what is the story? What is his story of difficulty, and how did that develop? How did he develop this system of Reiki, and was it original to him? I'm asking a lot of questions here. Answer whichever one you'd like.
Well, the system of Reiki, as it originated in Japan and was developed or founded by Mikao Usui, is also rooted in Buddhism. And like you said, Mikao Usui was a student of Buddhism, but he also held several of worldly jobs. And he was very well read, and he was looking for certain kind of answers. But the thing is, what he found and what he applied and what makes Reiki unique is that he combined these spiritual foundations, these spiritual principles, with hands-on healing and mindfulness to really meet people where they are and to develop a system that is accessible for everyone and that can help people with whatever they need help with. And back in the day, Reiki was used as a home remedy in Japan. So a family member at that time, usually of the upper class, was trained in Reiki and was able to treat family members with whatever ailments they were having, whether that was to reduce a fever, to take care of a stomach ache, or something else. And how Reiki really became more accessible to the public was when a big earthquake happened in Japan. And that's when Reiki clinics popped up, and when people then began to study Reiki more and then seek Reiki out more.
Can Reiki be a complement to Western standard medicine? Is it being more accepted as an effective technique, as an effective practice? I've heard that it is.
Absolutely. There are several hospitals, worldwide that include Reiki. They have, a lot of nurses are trained in Reiki.
Wow.
And who can also use that. I know here from White Plains, at White Plains Hospital, and when people go through cancer treatment, for example, there's a nurse that offers them complimentary Reiki mini sessions while they're getting their cancer treatment. So it really is practiced in hospitals. Some call it Reiki, some call it healing touch.
Oh.
Because there is this connotation of healing touch people can understand, or therapeutic touch people understand, but the word Reiki, there is still some mystery associated with it, and when people don't know or understand, it can cause some skepticism.
Well, when I hear the word Reiki, it sounds like a ray and the key in English, so maybe there's some truth to that, even though that's not the Japanese meaning of it, but it's interesting how that turned out in English. What other modalities are there of Reiki? Do you teach people how to meditate, breathing? I know it's hands-on touch. What else does Reiki teach, especially to practitioners? Or do you teach this to people who come to you for healing touch?
Yeah, I also include these, techniques and skills also into my sessions with clients, because it really is about giving people the tools to help themselves. So just very simple breathing exercises, helping them how to focus, very simple mindfulness exercises through touch, and if they're open to it, meditation in the form, of visualizations or breath work. It really depends on what the person needs and also how open they are to it. And some, they just want to receive the healing touch and then go on with their day, and that's okay too. But Reiki just for itself does not just only mean that it's hands-on healing. At the same time, it also doesn't only mean that it's energy healing. Like a lot of people associate Reiki as energy healing, and they think it's this energy that a practitioner can apply and then miraculously cure them and solve them. That, cure them or heal them and solve their problems. That's not how this works. But it includes, different, modalities, the healing touch, the mindfulness, the breath work, the meditations.
Would you say that in Reiki they believe that every person has Reiki healing within them?
Oh yeah, the ability, to heal ourselves is innate in us humans, because the body is always geared towards restoring a state of balance, homeostasis, to keep us well. Cells are renewing every second, and so practices like Reiki help us to remember this fact, and remind ourselves of it, and again allow us to tune in and to be quite literally back in touch with ourselves and our being, something that we, especially in this modern society, have unlearned.
You think it has a lot to do with all the chatter and all the distractions in modern society? Is it getting worse? Are people less balanced than they were back when in more traditional societies?
I would say people are very more, head heavy now, head focused, especially, about the technology, everything that we have, and not using physical activity, physical labor as much in our everyday lives anymore, because everything is, so much at the touch of a fingertip happening these days. So when we think about, 100 years ago, how much simpler life was, how much more physical activity was incorporated into daily life, and how there were fewer distractions. So it was easier to be present, and it was easier to be focused. And the thing is really, and practices again like Reiki help us with that, the body is always present, the body is always in the here and now. It's the mind that travels into the past and into the future, causing all this chatter and causing all this dialogue. And when you think about this, energy goes where the attention goes. So if you have an overactive mind with all these different kinds of chatter, so because the mind and the body are one, there are gonna be biochemical reactions. There are gonna be things happening in the body that are either conducive to to a more balanced way of being, or detrimental to a more balanced.
So maybe this is
being.
maybe this is the cause of illness, that the body and even the mind don't heal. Something's preventing the healing. Something internal is preventing the healing, because healing is the natural state, is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, or a state of balance, whatever this means for this individual at this point in time. We don't know about the history, we don't know about the genetics, that the person gets. We don't know about things, but the thing is, it's about taking the time and to recover and to recuperate when a person is not well. And who does it these days? Who is really taking sick days and then also using those sick days and not using those days to catch up or to run errands or do whatever, and just like allowing the body the opportunity to rest and restore, because the to-do lists are long, the internal pressure, the external pressure is so high in this world that we're living on. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, and that drains the energy, that drains the system. I say these are, I call them also energy drains, because it's like a faucet that is always leaking, and that is leaking precious life force and precious energy that the body needs, or the body could use to again restore balance, or to help recover or recuperate, to go through something.
So it's really a lot about energy, and that maybe is all of it, having the energy to get back into balance and heal. And people could have hope that they will get better and they will heal, because thinking that they won't, which is a problem for people, thinking they won't heal is itself holding them back.
Yeah, but there's also, we need to distinguish, what does to heal mean to each individual person, because a lot of people equate healing with curing.
Uh-huh.
And that's the danger here. So that we think, I'm having problem X and I'm going to practice Reiki on myself, or I'm going to Reiki treatments, and then all of a sudden, this problem X is gone. That's not the way it works, But, it's more like an invitation, again, to heal is to become whole. So where have I gotten off balance? Where do I need to make tweaks to change things so that I can either give myself the space to do what I need to do in order to get better, to make those lifestyle changes, for example, or to provide the person also with, okay, so or with acceptance, what do I need to do? This is the situation that I'm in right now. This is what I'm dealing with. How can I live with this instead of fighting against it? Because if you fight against something again that exists, then you're leaking energy again.
So what I hear you saying is that Reiki helps replenish energy, but you can't think of fixing that one problem without seeing the entire life and lifestyle, which Reiki can also help you do by getting into balance and being grateful every day. Is that part of it? Gratefulness, gratitude?
Gratefulness is a part of it, yes, but it's also about, first and foremost, it's really about becoming present, about really living in the now. not in the past and not in the future. Really learning how to tune into your body, listen to the subtle signals, signals like thirst or hunger, or when we're exhausted. A lot of us have unlearned to listen to these signals, and we push through them instead of, when people have a headache, what do most people do? They pop a pill instead of saying, what, am I dehydrated, for example? Am I overloaded with something right now? Can I step back and take a break? And this is really an invitation again to become present and to become more in tune with oneself and the subtle signs that the body is telling, because the body is always communicating.
And if you want to eat something, you have a desire to eat a certain food, and you won't eat it because you have some ideology about or principle that you will only eat certain things at certain times, that's not really responding to the body either. And of course we're seduced by all these super processed foods, so our tastes are off. Does Reiki say anything about food, or doesn't it approach that? Is there anything about that in Reiki?
Well, the thing is, when you think about this perspective, as energy, if you think about this perspective of Reiki as this universal life force, so not just as humans have this universal life force, right? Nature has this too. We can see it, especially with food, the vibrancy of fresh fruit or fresh vegetables from the market, for example, versus, something that comes from a can or something that has been processed. So something that comes straight from the tree or comes straight from the farm is higher in life force, is higher in vibrancy,
yes.
Versus something that has been on a shelf for several days or has even been, packaged and processed and is coming from a can. So the life force is less. So the more natural something is, the closer to its state of origin, the higher the vibration. So when we also think about nature, so there's a very different energy or vibe, when you go into the woods and you go to a tree versus looking at a piece of wood, in your living room.
So that's part of getting back our normal senses of vibrant foods and going towards that. I'm going to challenge you on something, okay? I heard a story about Mikao Usui that said that he went up to a mountain and, because his Buddhist teacher told him when he wasn't making the progress, he said to him, you have to die once. That's what I read. And he went up to a mountain for, I think, 3 weeks and fasted and did, I believe, penance. And finally, he had some amazing experience and he understood what he wanted to know. And then on the way down the mountain, he hurt his foot, his nail was ripped, and then he instinctively grabbed his foot and the nail healed. And he realized he had this healing touch where he could heal others. So I want to make the argument that healing could happen in that case, and maybe an amazing miracle healing could happen in other cases. Are you ruling that out?
I'm not ruling that out, and I've read this anecdote or story too. So, and I want to go back to, what does it mean you have to die to go there? And from the Buddhist perspective, it means, your ego, your attachment to the worldly world has to die so that you can become an enlightened being. So, and he was an enlightened being. So this is what happened after, 21 days of these intense spiritual practices and these kind of things. And when there is this sense of enlightenment, or when there is, this purity, energy flows differently, for sure. So I wouldn't rule that out completely, but again, we don't have any evidence or proof of that.
So if you're in Mikao Usui and you've achieved this level of energy flow because of reaching a spiritual level, which Reiki encourages and the practice encourages, it's something that could help with healing coming sooner than people realize.
Yeah, higher vibration. It's a bus of a vibration, right? It's, when the higher vibrations are more conducive to healing than lower vibrations. So sound healing is using that too. And there is this, I read an article recently, that about with frequencies and with vibration, they're using sound healing in cancer treatments. And that apparently, the sound healing can help transmute those cancer cells because, it's frequency, it's vibration, it changes things. So science is looking into this right now. And we have, I think, there are the tools now to take a look at this.
This is really amazing because in ancient Greece, I understand, they use sound healing, and we're somehow rediscovering things that existed before, but at a higher vibration now, I guess. And we're getting away from the straight, simple, mechanistic view of giving medication. There are other subtle energies that people respond to, and they are healing. And some things maybe can't be quantified right now, but in the future, it maybe will be able to, and we'll see the reasons why they worked. I think a decade or two ago, people would have fought against the idea of sound healing or maybe even light healing, because I know light healing is also being used now, exposing human beings to different colored lights elicits a different reaction in the brain, and when you have that, then the brain chemistry changes, and that changes the body. So there's a lot of modalities we can use. I wanted to ask you about Reiki. Do people need to be concerned that Reiki is a religion, that they have to leave their religion and join Reiki? What would you say to that?
Oh, Reiki is definitely not a religion.
Okay.
Reiki is considered a spiritual practice and a healing modality, but it's definitely not a religion.
So but it can be used in daily life. It's part of daily life, Reiki, and it would complement maybe people's spiritual practices in other religions. I would think.
Yeah, it's just creating the time and the space for a practice. To practice gratitude, to practice being present. I think this is a foundation of a lot of spiritual traditions across the globe.
So a typical day for a Reiki practitioner, what would it be in the morning, in the afternoon? Is that too personal? What is a typical day for a Reiki practitioner?
Well, I cannot speak per se for Reiki practitioners because we're all different and we're all different people and we have all our different lifestyles. But for me personally, I practice Reiki self-care every day before I even get out of bed. So I practice my basic 9 hand positions. I practice for 27 minutes. Doing that, I do my breath work. I set the intention for the day. And this is how I begin my day. I also pay attention to the precepts. I call the precepts the guiding light and the foundation for Reiki practice. And what they really mean and what they stand for is, just for today. Do not anger. Do not worry. Be grateful. Be true to your way and your being, and be kind to yourself and others. So just using these as a reminder that just for today means, from the Japanese perspective, just for this moment. So it just means to be present in this moment and to be, to become present, and not to get, when I feel emotions of anger and worry, and just knowing that I'm being taken away from the present, or that I just need to refocus or do something differently or work through this or address it so that I can just move on instead of denying it.
When did you first hear about Reiki? What was it about Reiki that resonated with you when you first heard about it?
Well, the first experience that I had with Reiki was not positive.
Really?
Yes. So I worked at the German consulate. It was, oh my goodness. So I just was trained in Reiki level 1 in 2015. So I think I had my first Reiki experience about 2012 maybe, or 2013. And I have chronic shoulder pain on the left side because I broke my left shoulder twice when I was a kid, and then I also dislocated it. So it's my weak spot. And while I was working at the consulate, I had a colleague who said to me, you know, I can heal you. I can take away your pain from your shoulder. So during a lunch break, we were in Midtown Manhattan, somewhere, you know, between those tall buildings, sitting down, and she put her hands on my shoulders and said, yeah, I'm healing you now. I'm taking away your pain. Nothing happened. I didn't feel anything. I just thought, Reiki, what is this? You know, this is just like some kind of hogwash. So since then, when I heard the word Reiki, I said, Reiki, no thank you. Then it was just, you know, I met an Indian woman, and she introduced me to Reiki, and I received a Reiki session, a proper Reiki session, and that was for the first time that I felt that I could relax, that I could, you know, let go. And so I became curious, and then I joined a group there, meditation group of expat women, and so then I was introduced, you know, to meditation and to mindfulness and to Reiki practice. And when there was the opportunity to take a Reiki class, I took it. And what changed for me was not, you know, that I was given the ability to heal all of a sudden. It was more like a switch in my mindset that was caused by these precepts when I heard them for the first time. And it said, be kind to yourself and others. So when I first heard that on July 12, 2015, something changed in my mind.
Did it change your life? Did it change the way you interact with other people? Did it make a big change in who you are?
Yes, it did. I became kinder to myself, and then as a result, you know, also to others, because before I was always pushing against myself, not listening to my body. I had a chronically inflamed esophagus at that point. I was grinding my teeth so badly that some of them in the back broke and had to be extracted.
Wow.
And there was no way to live. You know, I popped, painkillers like candy. I was running on caffeine and sugar. Wow. And that's no way to live. So I was on the outside, people say, we never know. But then on the inside, it's just, that's no way to live. And
I'm going to take an extra second or two because we're about to wrap up. That sounds very powerful. That Reiki made a huge difference in your life, and it could probably do the same for a lot of people. I'm guessing
it did, and it does. It does for some people, yes.
Okay, I think we've pretty much gotten a view of Reiki. I really appreciate your answering some of these questions. Were a little personal, but I think I learned a lot, and I think viewers learned a lot also. So, Andrea Kartika, thank you so much for coming in today.
Oh, yeah.